So it is very important for us to have a proper bookkeeping and accounting in businesses.
Okay. Now, when we now talk about the reality or the versus the ideal situation when it comes to the role of bookkeeping in businesses, especially in the Nigerian setting, what is the starting point for all of that? If I have to ask you, what is the ideal projection of how businesses should go about bookkeeping, what would you say?
Okay. In bookkeeping, there's what we call the double entry principle, and there are of three, or you can call it the golden rule of bookkeeping. Every debit entry must have a corresponding credit entry, and every credit entry must have a corresponding debit entry. Now, in bookkeeping, there is what is called a giver. There's always a giver and a receiver, and the value, there's a giver of value and a receiver of value. The giver of value, that value that is given, corresponds with the value that is given. The value that is given it corresponds with the value that is taken by the other person. So businesses, accounting or bookkeeping has what we call two legs. You always hear something like credit and debit and credit. Now, if I'm giving you something, like I'm giving you this phone, I am the one giving, you are the one receiving. So for me, something is leaving me, and for you, something is coming into you. Now, the principle of double entry says that every credit entry must have a corresponding debit entry, and every debit entry must have a corresponding credit entry. That's number one. Then number two, there is always a giver and there's always a receiver. The receiver is debit, the giver is credited. Now, when if you have you've received a lot before, and you see something like your account is being credited, and you are the one, your account has been credited. In the bank's account, it has been debited.
Oh.
Yes, it has been debited. So when you are receiving a credit account, somebody is receiving a debit account for that same transaction. And when you are receiving a debit alert,
Mm-hmm.
somebody, or when your account is being debited, somebody else's account is being credited also. So the ideal situation of bookkeeping is that when value is flowing from one person, there is another person that is receiving value. And this must be documented by the person that is giving out the value and by the person that is receiving the value.
Okay.
And this value that we're talking about, it's not just in assets, like maybe chairs, tables. No, these chairs and these tables, they have value, monetary values attached to them. So when something is, that's why initially I talked about improper bookkeeping, when I talked about
bits and pieces,
incomplete record.
Mm-hmm.
When, for instance, something that is an expense to me is an income to somebody else. Something that is an income to somebody else is an expense to me. Something is leaving me. What is leaving me is going to somebody else. So accounting or bookkeeping stands on at least two legs, which is where something is leaving somebody, there's something is going into somebody. It's going into somebody's account. As it's leaving your account, it's going into somebody else's account. So the foundation, the important thing is that we need to know what is coming in and it's being documented, and what is going out also documented, so that value that the value that changes hands will be monitored and properly accounted for.
I see. Okay. Now, with the extent we've gone, with the information you've provided when it comes to bookkeeping in businesses, one would now ask, what is the appropriate way to go about bookkeeping? There's conversations or concerns or ideologies about anyone can do bookkeeping. While there's another school of ideology that argues that it must be done professionally.
Yes.
For you, as one who interfaces with businesses, and you've made your own personal observation about that, what can you say about it? And then also, not forgetting to factor in the financial implication, which in this case could be described as a burden on, say, for instance, a small business who now is watching or is given the information that, hey, you need to have bookkeeping or some level of accounting in your business, no matter how small it is. And there's also that anxiety of, how do I afford doing that professionally and all. So, you know, the back and forth about who should do or what is the proper way of doing bookkeeping in businesses at different level. Can it be done, for starts, unprofessionally by anybody who just knows how to record a debit and credit, or must it be done professionally from the start?
Okay, first of all, bookkeeping must always be done properly. But like I said earlier, we have different scales of business. In business, we have the small scale business enterprise, the medium, and the large scale business enterprise. So let's assume, okay, let's take, for instance, somebody that has a grocery shop. Now, it's not, he or she may not be buoyant enough to employ probably bookkeepers or accountants. But like I said, from the definition of bookkeeping, it is the recording of financial information. Recording of financial information. You receive money, you document them, and money goes out. I don't think that will be difficult for somebody to do. You can start small.
So can that be interpreted as bookkeeping?
Yes.
Okay.
It's like I said, bookkeeping has to do with, it's not even before you start doing the debit and the credit thing. You receive money. You documented that you receive money. You pay money out. You documented that you pay money out. So that is a fundamental, that is the beginning of bookkeeping. That's the fundamental aspect of bookkeeping. Now, when you now have the employ a bookkeeper, that's when you start talking about the debit and the credit aspects. Now, if you are buoyant enough, you employ accountants. Now, the level is this. Accountants are not necessarily bookkeepers.
Oh.
Yes. Now,
doesn't that come with the field?
The bookkeeping thing is the fundamental. Mind you, bookkeeping is a branch of accounting. It's just like a segment, a small aspect of it. Let me just call it fundamental aspect of accounting. Now, the accountant, after the bookkeeper has done his own bit of it, it goes to the accountant to process the information. Remember, I said bookkeeping is recording, has to do with recording of financial information. We have not talked about the classification. We have not talked about the analyzing, and we have not talked about the interpretation. This has to do with the accounting aspects. Now, you have somebody in your place of work or your shop, as the case may be, that records what comes in and what goes out. That's a bookkeeper, different from the accountant. It is when that has been done successfully that it goes into the hand of the accountant, who will now classify, who will now analyze, and who will now interpret what the bookkeeper has recorded.
Okay.
So in Nigeria, if you are somebody that you are an entrepreneur, and if you have the resources, or your business is doing very well, it is advised to even to employ bookkeepers, to employ accountants, and even to employ auditors as well, because
under full employment or contractual.
It can be, depends on how buoyant you are. It can be contractual, it can be full employment.
I see.
It depends on the kind of business that you're into. If your business is large scale and you are buoyant enough, you can employ these 3 people. The auditor checks the work. Mind you, these 3, they are still under accounting. And the auditor checks the work of the accountant. The accountant gets information from the bookkeeper to work with. It's just like what we in IT, what we talk about raw data. You get raw data, then you process them, then you interpret and give to the end users. That's how it's still the same process that we follow in accounting. Bookkeepers, they get the information, they document them, record them, ensure that everything is well documented for the accountant to process, then for the auditor to audit, to check those transactions, whether they are appropriately entered.
I see. Okay, now with this explanation you've given, it now brings us to the fact that there are other accounting practices that
Yes.
needs to be incorporated in businesses as it grows.
Yes.
So could you throw more light on that?
Okay. For instance, another aspect of it is the taxation aspect. For instance, there is, when you are operating a business, you're expected to pay tax. Now, there are there are tax experts as well. Business is multifaceted. It has different faces. There is the accounting aspect. There's the business aspect of the business. There's the accounting aspect. There's the tax aspect. You have to pay tax to tax authorities. So, and in that tax, there's what is called tax incentive. Tax incentive.
What
You
is
need to
that?
know the tax laws so that you can exploit them. For instance, capital allowance. When you are operating a business, you have assets, maybe machines, assets. There are some tax incentive you need to apply for in order to be exempted from some level of taxes. Or there's also what we call tax holidays for some businesses.
Tax holidays in
Yes,
Nigeria? Do we
yes.
ever have that?
Well, we do. And it's just that a lot of people don't know about it, and a lot of people don't. That's why you need to employ, if your business is doing very well, you need to employ tax experts or even chartered accountants so that they can advise you on how to exploit those avenues, as in these benefits. We call them tax benefits
Okay.
in business. So business is as vast as business is. The accounting is also vast enough to be able to take care of the business in its entirety.
Okay. So besides taxation, what else, should a business owner pay attention to as regarding account practices, or could we make do with that? There's also the part of budgeting. How do you fix in budgeting, let's say in the effort or steps you're taking to align your accounting aspects of your business?
Okay. Bookkeeping and budgeting, or let me say accounting and budgeting, they are inextricably connected.
Okay.
When you talk about budgeting, what is budgeting? What are budgets? Budgets are financial documents or financial plan forecasting income and expenditure of the future. So when you are operating a business, you look at the future. You don't just talk about now, and you don't just talk about the profit of now. You forecast, and when you forecast expense, the amount of expense that you are going to incur, and you also forecast the amount of income that is going to accrue to you. This is for planning, because in business they say if you fail to plan, you plan to fail. I hope I'm right. If you fail to plan, you're planning to fail.
Okay.
So in business, you have to plan. You have to look at the future. It's not just in the present. It's not just what we can get now. The kind of profits that we make right now. In business, there's what we call going concern. Going concern is when you are into business, that your business will have continuity. You are not going into a business that you expect that business will collapse very soon. You are going into business expecting continuity. There's business concern. There's going concern that your business will continue to sustain for the foreseeable future. So that is why it is important for you to plan. And business has to do with income. It has to do with expenditure. So for you to have budgets, it's an estimation. It's not an actual thing. It's an estimation of what you are expecting. At least for you to get something, you have to expect it, so that you can, in order for you to get it. So when you forecast the kind of income that your business can generate, of course you should have an idea of the amount that, let's take for instance, you are operating a supermarket. You should have an idea of the items that are inside, the amount they can generate, and use it and plan with it.
Realistically,
Yes.
there's, when you talk about estimate, there's the realistic and unrealistic expectation. So how do you even know which is realistic or unrealistic?
Okay. Before you go into business, this is let's put aside the
Yeah.
theoretical aspect.
Okay.
Everybody does what we call visibility study or visibility plan.
In Nigeria, do they really do that?
They should.
Okay, should. Okay.
They should. If some of them are not doing it, then it is a lacuna on their part. It's a gap on their part.
Okay.
But every business person or intending business person should go into visibility study. You should have an idea of the kind of profit that you're expecting before you dabble. You cannot just dabble into business. You need to have an idea of, even though it may not be accurate, am I going to be making 100,000 a month? You should have an idea, because of course you should ask questions. How is this business being run? What are the profits in this business? What are the possible losses? And some people make case for worst case scenario, so that if worst comes to worst, this is the extent to which I can go. So it is very important for you to have a forecast. This forecast is not okay. You talk about unrealistic. It is not. That's why it is called a forecast, or it's an estimate. You cannot get the figures correctly, but you should have an idea, just an idea of what it should look like. And also, there's what we call in budgeting. There's what we call the actual and the estimated.
Okay.
If you after the end of the period, because not after the end of the period, your period may be from, most periods in Nigeria is from January to December, business financial year or financial period.
I thought it was October.
No,
That's
January
to October.
January to December. They close their end of year,
Okay.
December.
Okay.
For instance, banks, they begin the year January, they end December.
Okay.
Okay, they close their books December.
Okay.
So you should have a clear-cut vision of what you are expecting. Now, I was talking about the juxtaposing actual and estimated. Now, when you come to, when you have spent, you estimated in the past, and now you have spent a whole lot, and money have been received. Now, the difference between the actual and the forecasted or the estimated is what we call variance.
Okay.
The variance can be a positive variance, it can be a negative variance. So that if it is a positive variance, it's kudos to you. If it's a negative variance, in the next year, you will know how to plan and put the variance, the negative variance, into perspective.
Okay. Well, you've been told about variance when it comes to accounting, or in this case, budgeting, whereby there are projected numbers and actual numbers and all of the in-betweens. But don't lose sight of the fact that we are bringing up this conversation because of the growing importance and emphasis for businesses, especially in Nigeria, to be more intentional and aware about their account practices. Because this has been seen and also attested to as a crucial part when it comes to sustainability in business. Because if we're having quite negative projections that a lot of businesses in Nigeria don't last up to 5 years, and that could also be because of very poor or non-existent accounting practices or processes, well, it means that something needs to be done. Because it's quite heartbreaking if you make financial commitments and investments to build a business and find out that just because of several loopholes and what have you, you end up having all of those commitments and investment made going down the drain. So one of it that should be paid attention to more and intentionally is account processes, which we're touching areas such as bookkeeping, budgeting, and the entire 9 yards when it comes to that conversation. Well, we've been having a great interaction and an enlightening one as well with Mr. Michael Ayade, who's been doing wonderful justice to this selected conversation. And I'm hoping as well it has indeed improved your consciousness on it so far. But for now, we would need to go on a breather in order for Mr. Michael to catch his breath a bit, give you some time to assimilate, and have us return back where we'll begin to pay center focus on the importance of all that has been said so far, from bookkeeping to budgeting and what have you, and the connection that all of this has when it comes to sustainability, including possibly some steps and guidelines in order to get started, just in case as a business owner or one who is intending, as you're watching, you may not have been properly conversant with this area we're talking on. And also, you are also encouraged to participate via the phone lines when we return with your questions and contribution on this selected conversation. But for now, let's take that breather and be back in a short while to continue with this conversation we're getting to the middle on today's edition of The Middle Page. Every weekday, we rub minds together to analyze and address contemporary and socio-political issues as it affects the citizens and their regular activities on The Middle Page. Join me, Amazing Academy, and share your perspective on various topics wherever you are, at home, your place of work, on the street, or with your phone, as you join in via our social media platform on Facebook, Instagram, and more. The Middle Page, every weekday, only on ABN Network.
Let's talk security, current affairs, governance, politics, your view, elections, rule of law, economic issues, foreign events on the Talking Point. Talking Point, weekdays on this channel.
Every weekday, we rub minds together to analyze and address contemporary and socio-political issues as it affects the citizens and their regular activities on The Middle Page. Join me, Amazing Academy, and share your perspective on various topics wherever you are, at home, your place of work, on the street, or with your phone, as you join in via our social media platform on Facebook, Instagram, and more. The Middle Page, every weekday, only on ABN Network. And we're back from that breather, and I'm hoping that that gave you some time to assimilate all that has been said so far. Well, don't forget, our conversation has been centered on account processes in businesses, especially the Nigerian ones. And it's important when it comes to sustainability and other important areas that need to be paid attention to. Well, we've been having this interaction and having such a wonderful one and an enlightening one, courtesy of our wonderful guest who's been doing justice to that, who is an accountant and as well as a business person with financial related experience and analysis, as you already know so far. I'm talking about Mr. Michael Ayade on the show, and I must say thank you very much, Mr. Michael, for your contribution so far.
Thank you.
All right, so but before we go into looking at the importance of, say, bookkeeping or account practices as a whole in businesses, let's also look at the common narrative or statistics that says that, you know, especially for SMEs, that predominant of persons or, you know, businesses in that category are sole proprietors. And that also could play a part in the reason why such necessary factors or practices such as bookkeeping or accounting as a whole is not fully incorporated in a lot of our businesses. How true is that? Having a lot of our businesses sole proprietor based, is that a problem? Or is just probably some level of orientation or awareness that they've not been fully empowered or equipped with?
Okay, thank you very much once more. Like I said earlier, most of our businesses, small-scale businesses, let's say the sole proprietorship also proprietorship, they don't have proper bookkeeping because they've not been. I think because they've not been oriented about it. Now, talking about bookkeeping in relation to accounting and others, a bookkeeper is not a professional, may not be a professional.
Oh, really?
Yes. It is an accountant that is a professional. An accountant that is a professional. So, anybody can do bookkeeping. What is bookkeeping? It's just recording of financial transaction. For financial transaction, it's just recording of financial transaction. So there is no way, it is not ideal. It's not a good thing that you don't have a financial record. It can lead to business collapse and other things. So it is not until you have money or you are making a lot of profits that you do a bookkeeping, a proper bookkeeping. Even as small as the seller of Gary should be able to keep records, financial records, because that's what bookkeeping is. Yes. Financial records. We are not talking about analyzing yet. We're not talking about classifying. We are not talking about interpreting of those financial information. Money, you have received money, you record. You have given out money, you record. Then what left the business, what came into the business, what left the business, the difference is your profit. That's layman term. It's your profit. So you should be able to have that for you to plan ahead as far as your business is concerned.
I see. Okay, so what we're saying is that it's more about, the orientation more than what sort of businesses that we have.
Yes.
Okay. Now, with that fact being established, let's probably, for the sake of emphasis, directly talk about the importance of this accounting processes, and also, connecting it with these other areas that you've not really, let me not say you've not really, but maybe we've not really touched on. That is the, you said analysis and classification and all. But can all of those things be factored in all businesses, or is it just for a certain level of businesses? That is the classification, analysis, all those other aspects.
Yes, they can feature in all businesses.
Okay.
But the reason why some entrepreneurs, they don't factor them in could be as a result of finance. To be able to pay the financial analyst, for instance, to be able to pay this financial analyst, to be able to pay people who can properly interpret.
Can they do that by themselves? Can they go, is there a possibility that business owners could go through that process by themselves for starts?
Yes, they can.
Okay.
They can. Yes, they can.
But what is needed?
You need business acumen to be able to analyze. There's the professional analysis, which is given by the professional. It may be different from the unprofessional analysis. But you need for you to be able to analyze business, for instance, you need a business acumen. You need to be skilled in business. It's just like somebody who is good with marketing and somebody who read marketing in school. They are not the same.
Oh, really?
Yeah. I mean, they are not, it's not the same. Somebody who didn't read marketing, for instance, and is just good as a result of mere practice, as a result of mere exposure, he just goes into marketing. And somebody who read marketing in school and is proficient in marketing, let's say he has a PhD in marketing, it's not the same. One is more vast. It's vast than the other, even though the other is experienced. It's not the same approach they will use when it comes to marketing. Somebody who has been into business for many, like the likes of Dangote, for instance, he still needs accountants. He has been in business for so many years, maybe probably because before I was born, I don't know. Mm-hmm. But it still needs an accountant. It still needs financial analyst. It still needs all of those ones to be able to assist him in analyzing, classifying, and interpreting. And don't forget that most entrepreneurs, they are very busy persons, especially the big, shots. I have a business. I'm expanding the business. I have branches all over. I visit them. I will not really have time to go and be doing financial analysis for those businesses, to be doing classification, to be checking their work, accounting work, and all that. So that is when I now need people to do all of this.
Okay. Now let's look at the part, or what I'll call the major part of this conversation, which is looking at the connection between proper accounting processes, in this case bookkeeping, budgeting, and what have you, and how its role and influence when it comes to business sustainability. How does it connect and how does it influence when we have conversations, or when deliberations or issues around business sustainability in Nigeria comes up?
Okay, business sustainability, for you to be able to sustain your business, there are several factors, or there are several things that you need to consider. The accounting aspect is one of it. The marketing aspect is one of it. The management aspect is another part of it. You need to have a good management for your business for you to run your business successfully. You need to have a good marketing strategy for you to be able to sustain your business, and you need to have a good accounting system for you to be able to sustain your business. And you need to also have what we call internal control mechanism put in place. It has to do with internal mechanism put in place for something like checks and balances. You need to check the processes of the financial processes, the policies guiding the organization, compliance policies, and financial policies guiding the organization from time to time. That is in management structure, there is for instance, in a medium size organization, there's the manager, the assistant manager, the accountant, and the let's say the workers, so to speak. So how does who approves what, and who disburses? I mean, who approves money, and who disburses or dispatches this money? The manager cannot approve the money, dispatch the money, and also check the accuracy of what was dispatched.
Okay.
So there has to be checks and balances. That's what we call the internal mechanism, internal mechanism of internal mechanism of the process, or internal. That's when internal auditing comes in.
Okay.
Into the process. So for business to be able to, if talking about sustainability in business, there are different aspects that we need to consider for businesses to be able to run smoothly, to be able to be sustained. Like I said, the management, you need to consider the managerial aspects. You need to consider the internal control system or mechanism. You need to you need to consider the marketability of the business, the marketing aspect of the business. You need to consider the planning aspect of the business. Yes, if you fail to plan, you plan to fail. You need to have people who can plan, strategic thinkers, strategic planners, and all that.
Okay. Now, for the purpose of those who may have been ignorant of all of these things that we have talked about or brought to light on this discussion today, and probably are asking the question, where do we start from? What is the starting point in streamlining, or putting in checks, or putting various things in place financially and what have you, when it comes to helping their business stand better and be more sustainable? What are your recommendations, or will I say guidelines, that you prefer to such person or business owner who is asking that question while watching this discussion now?
Okay, when you're into business, you don't need to wait until you are making the millions before you start putting things like bookkeeping, accounting, record keeping, proper record keeping in perspective. As small as your business may be, even though you are making, let's say, 20,000 naira profit or whatever, you have to start small in terms of bookkeeping. You can start by recording everything that comes into your business and every value that goes out. You can start with that. It's not, you may not necessarily start with employing accountants. You can employ bookkeepers, or if you are not buoyant enough to employ anybody and you are the only one in the business, you can record by yourself. You can do it all
Just
alone.
make out the time.
Just make out the time for your record. It's for your own good. Even people who employ people to do the recording for them and to check the books for them, they know it is for their own good. That's why they do it, and they know the importance of it. So it's not about spending resources, throwing money away by paying people, doing the checking. The money that you can lose out of fraud, for instance, may even be bigger than the profit you make in 10 years' time.
Oh, wow.
So, and how much are you paying these people? It's not up to the amount that you may lose, So it is very important, no matter how small, there is the need for proper bookkeeping. And as your business grows, you will increase your bookkeeping capacity. That is when you can employ accountants, more professionals, even IT experts and others so that there will be proper control in your business, so that your business can flourish.
Okay. Well, this is to say that whatever level of business you operate in or have, there is a starting point when it comes to accounting, bookkeeping, budgeting, and basically the whole process put together in order to, like Mr. Michael has said, to, fill in those gaps and deal with those loopholes that give room for a sort of counterproductive activities such as preferring and other things that could come in place, and in order to make the process more transparent, honest, and accountable. Well, the conversation around account processes in Nigeria is a continuous one. And so we actually have started that in motion, or put that in motion, with today's discussion for today, and hoping that that has also given you the needed push as a business owner or intending one to begin to pay attention to these details in order to set your business right or get it started on the right footing from the beginning. Well, with that said, this is saying thank you for the time and hoping that while you watched and listened, it has indeed improved, shaped, and contributed to your consciousness and awareness of this selected conversation. And plus, we cannot fail to appreciate as well immensely our guest who has done such wonderful good to our discussion today with his contribution. And I'm talking about none other than Mr. Michael Ayade, who is an accountant with professional banking experience, a business person who is also grounded when it comes to financial related analysis. Well, Mr. Michael, thank you so much. We appreciate having you here and hope that we'll have the opportunity to engage sometime soon on other relevant related discussions.
Thank you for having me.
All right. Well, thank you once again to you for watching. And this is how far we can get to the middle of today's discussion. Well, as always, my name remains Amazing Ekedebe, encouraging you to keep watching ABN Television and the rest of our programs on Star Times Channel 140 and on www.abn.ng/. Also, remember to keep following us across various social media handles as shown on your screen. Plus, also follow the middle page as official page, Facebook page, which is ABN Middle Page. So with that being said, this is wishing you a wonderful day. Take care of yourself and all the best. Till the next time we get to the middle of another contemporary issue as it affects you in today's society. Do take care.